What's the crack, everyone? It's Nathan here, aka the Rambling Kern, and head instructor of Kern School of Combat. So, I wanted to follow on in this series discussing kind of important notes around sparring and training in general. I think people have been kind of enjoying these, and the Irish weather's been pretty terrible at the moment, so a lot of my other plans have kind of been postponed until weather improves. So, I've had both positive and negative comments around the grappling that's seen within my training and within my sparring video, and kind of some of my thoughts on it. Now, it is important to note that grappling within weapon arts is a crucial element, and people can dispute that all they want, but it is a blatant fact. Now, I want to preface the video with saying that within Irish stick fighting, there is a handful of grappling techniques and handful of disarms, and this is true for both the Antrim system and the Doyle system, the kind of two existent styles. Now, while there was various different grappling styles at the time in Ireland, I just want to preface with saying that, those were the two styles that are there, and most of the grappling done within my group and most of the grappling that I teach is outside of the realms of those arts. So just to preface with that. Now, grappling in itself is a key component of any martial art, especially weapon-based martial arts. Now, I know in an ideal world, if you have a stick or a shillelagh like this, in an ideal world, you'll throw out your strike, you'll knock the person out, and the fight's over. Great. Realistically, that is a very, very difficult thing to do. If the other person's armed with a stick, they can block it. If they get the jump on you, they can grab your stick, they can grab you, and you're in all sorts of trouble. Or conversely, you can lose your weapon. And then what do you do? Most of us will not want to roll over and give up. I understand maybe in a training scenario, you might just reset or whatever. But in an actual altercation, you probably want to continue the fight. Now, I understand in a lot of different styles and a lot of different groups, a lot of different disciplines, they don't want to grapple with weapons. And that's absolutely fine. But for my group and what we do, it's a key component of understanding stick fighting. Now, if I just look at Irish stick fighting for a few moments, in the few kind of pictorial references that we have, we actually see grappling being used. And it's important to note that the kind of context of Irish stick fighting in general, so a lot of it comes from a period where either you had faction fights where crowds were being pressed in together, so grappling exchanges were very likely, or you had, as it was often shown, was someone essentially with a walking stick and walking stick defense, so most likely a mugging where someone's trying to grab you or steal your money, that sort of a thing. So grappling is something that you often see in them. But if we look at other arts of the time, other Victorian arts, for example, we see a lot of grappling being done in them. And there's a multitude of reasons for this, but the main one being that this is a stick. If you, like I said, if you fail to get that clean shot at the beginning, there's very little you can do. Now, obviously there's techniques we can use in close to deal with a person who gets into grappling range, where you can try striking with the stick. But the problem is if they get past your initial swing and let's say your arm's up in the air, there's very little you can do. Maybe you can hit them with the end of the stick. But if we're looking at a full-size shillelagh, this is a short one that I use for the videos. If we look at a full one where it's maybe 3 foot plus in length, it can be very difficult to move that thing around when someone's in a grappling range with you. So what do? Well, generally you grapple. And this is seen across all different weapon-based arts throughout history. In fact, some of the earliest illustrations we have of grappling in ancient Egypt show stick fighting right next to it, showing that they were being trained with each other. Now, maybe those people were training for use with swords or axes or potentially even clubs very similar to this, but it shows that grappling and stick fighting were key. There were two kind of sides of the same coin. And we can see in various different weapon arts throughout history how grappling was involved. And there's plenty of famous examples of this, be it half swording in longsword in European martial arts. We have all different types of grappling. We have knives being used on the ground and grappling revolving around that for knights. Very common thing to see in armoured fighting. We have Asian arts, probably the most famous examples being various different Japanese arts. For example, you see it in Kendo and Jiu-Jitsu and various other Japanese arts. They're probably the most famous examples that people would know. So there is this misconception for a lot of people that if you're good with a weapon, that's it and the fight's over. However, if someone's determined to grab onto you, sometimes it can be very, very difficult to stop that. Or conversely, you could be injured in a fight or in sparring and you lose your weapon, and then you need to rely on grappling or striking. So, I mean, the three pillars of any weapon-based martial arts are the use of your weapon, the use of striking, and the use of grappling. If you lose your weapon, be it was hit out of your hand, someone grabbed it off of you, whatever, you need to be able to strike and grapple effectively to stop that person. Like I said, you don't just want to simply stop because the fight isn't over. It's not over until one of you are incapacitated, and that's kind of what I was touching on in my previous video of saying don't stop. Just because you lose a weapon, for example, the fight isn't over. Just because you've taken a shot, like a grazing shot to your fencing mask, for example, that might not have been enough to finish you. Perhaps it was. Well, like I said, masks kind of skew the reality of a fight. But it is important to understand that grappling is one of the things in all weapon-based arts that is very, very difficult to deal with unless you have knowledge of grappling. And that is just the truth. So I think it's very important to train grappling alongside your weapon-based arts. Now, I was first kind of exposed to various different elements of this when I was training with the Dog Brothers. However, like I've said, you see it in various different martial arts. Now, I understand in a lot of weapon-based martial arts, either people don't have the ability to train this or don't want to train this. And that can be for a multitude of reasons. Either they don't have the knowledge as to how to grapple effectively, they don't have access to mats or other safety equipment, or simply they just don't want to. Often a lot of people do weapon-based arts because that's not really their thing. And that is absolutely fine. But if you look at most historical examples of various weapon-based arts, there is extensive grappling in them. Now, often you hear this strange debate of, what is the most combat effective or the most deadly, or these sort of kind of top trump things that you see in weapon-based arts. But at the end of it, if someone wants to grapple you, like I've said, it is a very, very difficult thing to prevent. So understanding that is very important, but also there is an element of safety that has to be done when you are grappling. So having the knowledge of how to do that is very important. And that also leads into other things. Often grappling-based arts will teach you how to fall effectively and do things to protect yourself. Especially in arts, like I said, weapon-based arts, where once you get in close, often grappling will just happen, even if it's kind of prohibited within whatever the sparring system that you use is. So it was just something that I wanted to touch on. I know people have asked for kind of further videos on some of the grappling techniques that we use. And this is something that was said to me by one of my coaches, Maxime, of Antrim Bata, that if you're training stick fighting, it's important that you train grappling alongside that if you want to kind of gain that that skill set. We don't have time, for example, in my group to extensively teach grappling and stick fighting. My group is a stick fighting group. I will teach people what I would call stick grappling, elements of grappling that involve the stick, but I don't have time to give them a high level of understanding in grappling arts. That's why it's important for people to do those things in their own time. And that doesn't matter what grappling art they choose, be it wrestling, judo, sambo, jiu-jitsu, whatever particular art that they enjoy. But if you want to gain that whole picture of weapon-based combat, I think it's a very, very important thing to understand. And I think it's also important to have some level of striking ability, be it boxing or kickboxing or something along those lines. Now, I know a lot of people have various different opinions on this, so please let me know yours. I'm very, very interested to hear. Like I said, in my opinion, grappling is a fundamental part of weapon-based martial arts. it is something that a lot of people don't train, and it's something that a lot of the people who have joined my group have come to appreciate and enjoy. We have a lot of HEMA people who've trained with me, and that is something that you see extensively in HEMA, like I've brought up, that there is a huge amount of grappling within those arts, but often groups don't train it. And I also wanted to touch on that even though some of the techniques you'll see me do look like modern grappling, I've had people say to me before that I have a very modern grappling based view on grappling within stick fighting. A lot of the techniques that you would see are nothing new. So for example, in my highlight video, I'll bring up a picture of this here. I did a front headlock choke, or a guillotine as it's known in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and you'll see right next to that an image of someone doing the exact same thing in a rapier manual. So these are hundreds of years apart, essentially the exact same technique, and an important technique to understand for grappling with weapons. So, like I said, if you enjoyed that and if you kind of want to discuss this further, just pop down to the comments. If you'd like to sponsor my work, I do have a Patreon. I'm setting up a Discord so that I can chat further with all of the wonderful people who are sponsoring me, and that will also give you more opportunities to kind of bounce ideas off me and if they have any questions for me. But like I said, if you would like to help the channel anyway, you can even just give the channel a like and subscribe. It really does help. I really appreciate everyone watching. And if you have any videos you'd like to see, please do let me know. Like I said, some people have requested some videos on grappling with the stick, and I would be happy to showcase some of that if there's interest for it. Once again, thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate it, and Slán.